Pretentious.
10 things not to do in Poland. How much you will enjoy Poland will depend so much on what you do or don't do during your stay there. If you're moving to the country permanently, or to stay there for a long time, you'll have enough time to learn about the do's and don'ts of living in the country, such that things that were rudely shocking to you can become just ordinary. But if you're simply visiting the country for a brief moment, not knowing this will seriously mar your enjoyment of your stay in the country. That's why it's good to pay rapt attention to the discussion of 10 things not to do in Poland, as will be discussed in this video. 10. Don't drink in public. We love to begin this list of 10 things not to do in Poland with a warning, which is not peculiar to Poland alone. It's about public drinking. It's prohibited to drink alcohol in public places. It's against the law of the land. But it's not frowned upon if done in a quiet place, such as in your home or a private park, bars, restaurants, open-air cafe, gardens, and other places. The bottom line is that you're allowed to drink alcohol only in properly licensed designated areas. Drinking in public can get you arrested or fined in Poland. An explanation that you didn't know would sadly not be enough for police officers who take a strict approach to public drunkenness here. Meanwhile, it's also prohibited to sell or even offer alcohol to use under the age of 18, because underage drinking is not allowed, even in licensed bars and restaurants. 9. Don't forget to tip in Poland. In Poland, tipping is considered a gesture of appreciation, though not a strict requirement. While some say it isn't as ingrained in the country's culture as it is in other countries, tipping is overall appreciated in Poland. It's a good idea to tip to show that the service was particularly good. In restaurants, it's common to tip around 10%. If the service is exceptional, you might tip up to 15%. Some restaurants have already included the 10% service fee. You therefore need to double-check the bill before you tip and then do so accordingly. Now, if you need to do your bill with cash, you shouldn't say "thank you" when handing the server your cash and bill, unless you want him or her to keep the change. You need to have coins handy when you have to tip in Poland. Also, the Polish shops don't often have any change if you're paying with a note. We'll talk more about this next. 8. Paying with big bills. We're not here to say that paying with large bills in Poland is unacceptable. You need to note that smaller shops, cafes, local markets, and other small businesses have limited change available. It's always a good idea to carry smaller denominations, if not coins, for these situations. The same applies to public transport if you're using cash for public transport. If you receive larger bills when withdrawing cash from ATMs, try to break them at larger stores or banks. In Poland, 50 or 100 zlotys are considered big bills, especially when buying something costing less than 50 zlotys. Sellers always ask for smaller bills, even though most ATMs dispense 50 or 100 zlotys. You can use these bigger bills at museums or larger stores. As just mentioned, coins can be handy for tipping. 7. Saying goodbye in a doorway. When shaking hands or bidding someone goodbye, you can't do this in a doorway or over a threshold. It's offensive to people in Poland. For some reason, they don't like bidding them farewell in a doorway. Well, there are lots of superstitions attached to this, which you need to get familiar with in this country. One of them is that in ancient Slavic times, it was believed that evil powers from outside could be carried into a house when someone greets guests over the threshold. This is because the threshold has always been seen as a border between danger and safety, between what is outside and inside. 6. Walking into a building with a hat on. In Poland, if you're entering someone's house, public places, public institutions, or a church, you should remove your hat. This rule does not apply to women and children, but as a gentleman, you must remove your hats indoors. The only situation that warrants a woman's removal of her hat is during a substantial meal, such as lunch or dinner. The rule applies to all hats, be it boater or bowler. The act of removing hats indoors is a long-time sign of respect. It began probably with medieval knights. According to an institute, any knight who failed to remove his helmet or hat, or failed to lift his visor to identify himself, risks facing fatal consequences. They also had to remove their helmets as a mark of vulnerability and a sign of trust in churches. 5. Don't be late. Punctuality, some say, is the soul of business. As it is among Germans, so it is with Poles. They're pretty much on-time kind of people. It's considered offensive and disrespectful to run late in Poland without texting or calling to let the people you have an appointment with know that you're running late. In Poland, punctuality is highly valued, while punctuality is considered a mark of respect and reliability. Those arriving are showing that you value the other person's time and that you take the commitment seriously. In a historical context, being punctual was important for the Poles' survival when they faced numerous challenges and hardships in agricultural and industrial settings. Being on time in professional settings is associated with competence and professionalism, reflecting well on work ethics and can impact reputation. 4. Don't refuse drinks and food. Interestingly, you may not get enough invitations to meals from the Poles, but they're generally hospitable people. So when you're invited for a meal, it's considered rude to refuse Polish food and drinks. Rather than feeling okay with pizza or kebab, let your taste buds enjoy traditional Polish cuisines at their restaurants, filled with the aromas of delicious Polish dishes. Remember that you're in a country of pierogi and sausages. Rejecting local dishes, which are an integral part of coming to know a foreign country's culture, is considered offensive in Poland. 3. Smiling. The next point on this list of 10 things not to do in Poland is smiling purposelessly. The Poles don't need you to smile to convince them that you are polite. You just need to keep your face and voice neutral, as smiling detracts from the seriousness or credibility of a conversation. The Poles rarely smile at others. They're actually unwilling to communicate with strangers unless they have to. When they do, their voice can sound almost aggressive. 2. Don't enter a person's apartment with your shoes on. You don't get so much opportunity to be invited to a Pole's home while visiting the country. If, however, you're lucky enough to be thus invited, you shouldn't abuse the privilege. When you are in their home, you should take note of whatever everyone else is wearing on their feet. One of the things you should not do in Poland is to enter a person's apartment with your shoes on. Even if you're convinced that it's not going to mess up things, note that it's generally a custom in the country not to wear shoes inside the home. Slippers are allowed under certain circumstances, but to be barefooted is the norm. 1. Don't rely only on English. The last one of the 10 things not to do in Poland that we shall be discussing in this video is relying only on English. We surely understand that it can be difficult to learn Polish. In fact, we discussed that in one of our videos about the pros and cons of living in Poland, which dwells so much on the language barrier. Still, you can't underestimate how helpful learning a few Polish words can enhance a vacation in Poland. While visiting Gdansk, Krakow, or Warsaw, just greetings or a few expressions are so helpful. Unfortunately, Polish isn't a widely spoken language, so most travelers don't speak the language unless they're of Polish descent. This means you can find a few Poles who speak English, but they'll be happier if you know a few words. Now, as we conclude, please tell us your impression of your experience with these 10 things not to do in Poland. Please let this discussion continue in the comments section. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.